Notre Dame's defense is loaded with NFL caliber talent, but even when things go wrong, they have a magic eraser in their secondary, in safety Brauntae Johnson. A 4-star recruit out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, Johnson had at least 20 FBS offers, but decided to stay close to home and committed to Notre Dame late in 2023. After sitting as a backup as a true freshman, Johnson burst onto the scene last season with 48 tackles, 3 pass breakups, and 4 interceptions. The advanced metrics are even more impressive, with Johnson logging just 2 missed tackles while allowing a passer rating of only 58.6 when targeted. It's hard to put Johnson's entire impact on defense into just raw numbers, so to show you why Brauntae Johnson is already generating first-round buzz as a potential NFL draft prospect, we're going to dive into some of his tape from last year in today's episode of Best Available. Thank you for watching today's episode. Make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube if you're not already, and give us a follow on socials at BestAvailableYT. As always, I continue to thank you guys so much for becoming members and continuing to support the channel. If you are a huge fan of the NFL Draft, I highly encourage you to check that out. Along with just generally supporting Best Available, you are getting full access to my 2027 NFL Draft Big Board, where yes, I do have Johnson as a top 20 prospect. In there, in live time, as I watch players, you're getting all of my notes, grades, rankings on everyone. So be sure to check that out. Again, link in the description to that. We also have to make sure that we thank our season-long partner this year in Prize Picks. It's a scorching sports summer, and you can make all your picks on Prize Picks. Women's basketball and baseball are heating up, and every football preseason game kicks off this month on Prize Picks. And with big tennis slams and major golf tournaments on the horizon, there's no better place for all your summer sports picks than Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. Despite growing up in Indiana, I would not call myself a Notre Dame fan growing up. And usually I think that this is a kind of a team that's like, yeah, they don't really play anyone. I think it's kind of a paper tiger. But this year, man, the more I watch this team and the talent that's returning, the more I'm convinced that this is a legit national title contender. So anytime they're playing, I'm looking at picks on Prize Picks, and it's going to be a lot of more passing yards, more tackles, more rushing yards, more touchdowns. I really do think this team has a chance to go all the way and make a deep playoff run. They're simply just too talented, especially at quarterback with CJ Carr, and an absolutely loaded defense. So as the season rolls on, you can bet your butt there's going to be a lot of action on my end as far as Notre Dame is concerned. The football preseason is here, and there's no better place to run your game than Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. We've got star players on new teams and a rookie class ready to take over, all while teams look to get started on the biggest football season yet. Make a lineup with player stats, pick game winners, spreads, or totals, and combine your picks in the same lineup. All on Prize Picks, now available in all 50 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $150 instantly in lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $150 instantly in lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. Like I said at the beginning of this video, just an absolutely stacked Notre Dame defense this year. Boubacar Traore, Kingston Viliamu-Asa, Leonard Moore, who in my opinion is the #2 player in this class behind Jeremiah Smith. But we also have a pair of really nice safeties. Brauntae Johnson's obviously one. That's why we're talking about him today. But honestly, this other kid, I think it's Aiden Schuler, #8. Also pretty damn nice. Both of these kids continue to flash on this tape I watched. But we are going to focus on Johnson today. I think this is a pretty ideal play to start. So we're just going to run away from Johnson on this play. It's going to be just a QB keeper down the sideline. Going to be a busted play. I'm going to just let it roll, but you watch Johnson and his hustle throughout this play. Gets into his drop down the hash and then realizes QB run. We miss a tackle on the outside and you could have broken away. This is a touchdown, but for Johnson's effort here. And just keep an eye on as we roll this and he realizes his run, the angles he starts taking. So we're down that hash. Then we read QB keep. So now we're like, hey, we're taking a line here, trying to meet him. Hopefully some other guys slow him down so he doesn't have a full lot of speed and we can meet him this way. But we're always planning that. So the angle, you're going to notice, keeps changing. So it's down that way. Now he's breaking out and suddenly like, hey, no one's slowing him down. I've got to adjust my angle. And then from here, it's a hell of an effort by Johnson. All right, so we know Johnson has some legit recovery speed and hustle to his game. But man, what really stands out to me is his downhill explosiveness, both in coverage and as a tackler. Here we're just gonna have an outbreaking route with the tight end, and I want you to watch how quickly Johnson reacts to that outbreaker to cover it. On that tight end outbreaker, the explosiveness and trigger, like Taylon Green's not even remotely prepared for Johnson to break on this. So we've got that tight end going vertically. So we got eyes on him. You can see, diagnosing tight end with our eyes, reading his stem. He's slowing up, so we know he's breaking somewhere. Not a really good route by this tight end. He's like almost completely stopping and, just doesn't look very decisive, kind of rounds off the route. You can see as he's getting out of that break now, we're finally getting stride, rounded it off a bit. Johnson's able to read this the whole way through. And then you just see that downhill explosiveness to fire down and just get a hand on it. Almost picks it off. I think if it was a more accurate throw that wasn't too high, I think Johnson does pick it off. But I just wanted to show when he diagnoses in real time and hits that, hits the turbo, or basically plants that foot and goes when he reads what he's seeing, which happens a lot. He reads it well and then reacts decisively. There's no, I think I read this, let me go half speed. It's no, I read this, I'm going 100% full speed. This is just kind of an example of what that can do in coverage. We got Johnson again right here, right side of the screen. He's just going to snuff out an underneath route here. We're going to have some other deeper routes, and we're just going to run a little drag with number 8. So the idea here, ideally, send this running back to the flat, take a linebacker out of the equation. Everyone else is worried about deep routes, here, here, and then we just kind of have those clearing out for a drag underneath in space that can make a play with the ball in his hands. Johnson's eyes are so good here. Because he's not worried about, he knows that with his speed, he can always catch up here. But I think, is it a cover 3 look maybe? I just know that this defender number 14 is dropping into this space. We got a corner here, bottom of the screen, we got another corner bailing. But Johnson's eyes, maybe he's just buzzing down in this situation, in this coverage. I'm not going to pretend like I know this coverage specifically based on what we're seeing here. But it does appear that he's buzzing down, but he's just keeping his eyes on the quarterback. And instead of following all these vertical routes and trying to get in the way, he sees that underneath, man, and poor kid. Just not prepared for it at all. What a stick. I think it's a flag. It's holding or something of the sort. I think it's holding. But regardless of all of that, man, like the processing on this to understand, again, Johnson right here, to understand his role in this defensive coverage, read underneath, and then just, again, he does not hesitate when he sees it. He triggers fully downfield and just absolutely clobbers this kid. Because of Johnson's just insane explosiveness and processing, and his size, he's like 6'2", 200, with solid length. He really just is a versatile chess piece that you can run a lot of different coverages with him. He can buzz down or play a robber in the middle of the field. He can play man. He can play deep zone. It really gives a defensive coordinator a lot of options on what they want to do. And this is a good example of this. We see this shell here, and we're thinking a couple of potential things. Potential quarters, where we're all just going deep, deep quarter responsibilities. We're also thinking potentially cover 2, where, these corners are going into the flats, and then our safety's got deep half responsibilities. But what I love about this, with this mugged up look, is we're actually going to drop this defender. It's going to be an inverted cover 2. So we're going to drop him to the middle of the field. We're actually going to have our corners play our deep halves. And then we're going to keep these safeties basically where they are in hook curl zones, just to invert this. When you hear inverted cover 2, it's just basically the corners are replacing the safeties on deep half responsibilities, and these safeties are buzzing down. So I love this concept here, and it really helps Johnson get in the way of this play because quarterback doesn't know how to process this. So you can see corners are bailing into deep half responsibilities. Neither safety has moved. That linebacker that was mugged up is sprinting to get to that Tampa 2 dropper roll out here. So as we're doing this, Johnson's just reading the eyes of the quarterback, knowing that he's probably a little confused by this coverage. And as he breaks on that throw, just great job recognizing the quarterback's getting ready to throw. Sprint to that throwing window. Just misses an interception, but he reads it the right way the whole way through. You can see him, eyes are flat. As soon as that quarterback releases that off arm, getting ready to throw it, that's Johnson's cue. Where are his eyes looking? Not even worried about where the receivers are relative to him. He just sees where the QB's eyes are looking, feet planted, all of that, and breaks in that direction. Once he sees the quarterback ready to throw, and man, again, almost makes a great play on that. But just beyond just the play that he makes, I just really appreciated the eyes there, and the play call of just inverting the cover two, letting him play underneath and react. Another nice way to utilize his talents. When you're playing this off in man coverage, you can't expect to break up every pass, but when it is a quick pass, in this case, it's basically just a quick slant, you got to be able to bring him down ASAP and prevent any yards after contact, which is exactly what Johnson does here, and you're going to see why. Just really clean tackling technique here. We're going to react and track the near hip and then grab at the hamstrings, which is just ideal tackling technique. Johnson was a tremendously reliable tackler last year, missed tackle rate of 3.8%. And typically for a lot of safeties and linebackers I watch, if it's in the double digits, it's not ideal, but you see it a lot for pro prospects. A 3.8% missed tackle rate's quite good for a safety. Johnson just shows why here. So we're going to see react, break downhill, get your head to the side, use your shoulder at the hip. You can see his head's to the side. He's tracking near hip, getting his shoulder on that. And then as he finishes through that tackle, he's grabbing at the hamstrings. Not going to be able to generate any kind of power. I don't care if you're Derrick Henry. I don't care who you are. But when a tackler is grabbing at your hamstring, there's just not much you can do. Yeah, ends up being a one-legged takedown, not ideal. But football, we teach technique, but it's not always going to translate to on the field. Sometimes you just have to go with technique and be a football player and then just improvise, which in this instance is exactly what he does with the one-legged takedown. But everything up to that point is pretty ideal as far as technique on a tackle attempt. It's why he's such a clean tackler and misses so few tackles. Johnson gets 2 interceptions in this game, if I believe. We're not going to show both. I was hesitant to even show this one, but it's just kind of being in the right place at the right time on a play like this where, just kind of task failed successfully. Getting into this drop, overthrow, either an underthrow here or an overthrow here, but regardless, Johnson trying. This is a little hard, from laying completely down and trying to track this football to making a catch like that. I'll give him credit. That's pretty impressive in and of itself, but just a terrible throw. I didn't want to show either interception for that reason. Both were just horrendous throws by the quarterback. But on this one, at least, I have to give Johnson credit for, still hauling in the interception despite slipping, and, tracking that ball the whole way. So little lucky there, but we got to appreciate it a little bit. You're actually not going to see Johnson at the start of this play, but he's going to fire in from off screen. And I just want to show you, I'll show you in first, but just how quickly and clean there he is. His tackling technique is, man, just consistently aiming at the near hip, not trying to tackle too high. Everything he does is with purpose, and I just really appreciate the way that he tackles. So you can see him flying off screen from here, reading a run, seeing that this is the gap that's going to be run through, so I got to fill here, and then track where that running back's trying to go. And again, near hip the whole way, constantly looking for near hip. Gets low, makes contact with his shoulder pad on that near hip, and then you can see where his hands are going, trying to grab at those hamstrings and legs to bring him down, and does exactly that to prevent any additional yards. This was a 3rd and short, so as a safety, they know it's likely going to be a short yardage run. And yes, Boston College does get the first down here, but that kind of clean tackling prevents any kind of yak once he makes contact. Because if you're not grabbing at those hamstrings, you're tackling high, he's still churning his legs as a running back and generating even more rushing yards. But I thought this was a really nice job by Johnson to fly in there, track near hip, grab at the hamstrings, prevent any more yards than needed. Last one in the Boston College game, then we'll move on to our last game in Pitt. But they're just going to run a hitch, and Johnson's going to close on it. And the thing about hitches when you're playing off coverage and you're up big, it's Notre Dame, I believe, was up in this game. It's cool if you want to get 5 yards at a time as an offense. Just know this is the mentality you should have as a defender. Like, hey, just know if you want to get those, quick, quote unquote, cheap 5 yards, the guy catching it's going to pay for it. So you can keep running that. He's not going to want to keep running it if I keep hitting like this. So as we roll this, I believe it's this receiver right here is going to get the hitch. So run that quick hitch. Johnson, again, anytime he processes, there is no hesitation in what he's seeing. He's reacting to it full speed downhill and just Even that tackle, we talked about how clean his tackle attempts have been earlier. It's probably a little high, but because of the momentum he brings in and then wraps up and keeps his feet going through contact, it's still just a really punishing hit right there. You can see just completely stonewalled, barely gets the first down by a single yard. But man, he's just no extra yards when you're throwing towards Johnson. It's just something I really, really appreciate. It's why I'm calling him Notre Dame's magic eraser. It's just, yeah, we're really limiting explosive plays and limiting plays that you can make as an offense when you have a guy like this. This ball doesn't even come Johnson's way, but it's another example of just, hey, he's seeing what he's seeing and he's reacting to it full speed. And it's not like it takes him out of this play. So he's going to react to a hitch and read the quarterback's eyes on this one from depth. So as we roll this, he's going to see, hey, we got a quick hitch here. Quarterback's looking at him the whole way. So I'm just going to go here. You can see he's reading quarterback's eyes. And as he steps and plants to throw, sees the hitch, he's just triggering on it. Again, we end up throwing somewhere else, but we're reading the quarterback's eyes, how we should. It's kind of the same plane that he's looking at, just a very slight off degree, but this is kind of his assignment in the slot anyway. So yeah, it ends up being a completion to a different receiver, but that's not Johnson's job here. What I want to see him is react and trigger downhill, which I think he does a really nice job of while reading the quarterback's eyes and reacting to it. Not every time you do this is going to be thrown your way, but I just wanted to show he's still doing the right things here and reacting and being, again, just be decisive when you see it. No hesitating. Watch it too often at all levels of football where someone sees something and is like almost afraid to make a mistake, so they kind of hesitate triggering. That's not going on ever in Brauntae. I know he prefers to go by Brauntae, but there's nothing like that going on in Brauntae Johnson's head. It's I see it and I react. And this is exactly why you see and react when you see stuff. And I'm glad we've gotten to show a handful of plays from multiple games where he's just seeing and going, because this is why it pays off. And all of that being decisive all game long works so well. So we're going to motion receiver across the formation. So we're going to widen our linebacker coverage. We're going to read, hey, now we got two receivers on this side, but all he's doing in his drop, he understands where his drop is, and then he's reading the quarterback's eyes. So still keeping an eye, not worried about the route combination. He's just, hey, got the peripherals. He's got the peripherals to, hey, read the quarterback's eyes, kind of feel out this route combination. And the second that, the linebacker peels off, man, just the decisiveness. As soon as he winds up to throw that, look at the dead sprint, the forward lean. We're already breaking on that, reading the quarterback's eyes, and then gone. And this is why you stay decisive. He's gone 4-6, easy touchdown. I love everything about this. I don't even care about the touchdown. I just cared hey, been seeing it all video we've been talking about today. He's so decisive when he reads the quarterback's eyes, and this is why you get rewarded for it. You just keep reading it, have the peripherals to kind of understand the routes, but I'm not even as worried about that. I'm just worried about you're in your drop, you're seeing where the quarterback is looking, and once he gets ready to throw, you break. And he does an exceptional job on this one and is rewarded for it. It's a gorgeous play. I would say I think one of the hardest jobs as a defender at any position is a safety having to be an alley defender against the run. Because typically there's just a lot of space you have to cover, and this is a good example of being disciplined as an alley defender. So as we roll this, we got that run, we got a puller. Suddenly we've got to cover multiple angles. We got to make sure nothing breaks inside. Maybe he can go into this gap. Maybe he can go into this gap, or maybe he just bounces all the way outside here. So there's a lot of angles that we have to take. So what we got to do is we got to quickly close this space and limit the angles which he can break away, and we can react to them. So urgency closing, being ready to read, hey, he might be going outside. Let me just try to keep my shoulders as square as possible to the line of scrimmage. So if he breaks a certain way, I don't have to flip my hips and try and run. So initially reads outside, running back tries to break back inside, so he's flowing back in. And then once he sees the opportunity to make contact with the ball carrier because of the way he tackles, he does not hesitate. He tries and grab and gets a team tackle out of it. There's not a ton to it here, but it's just that discipline, urgency to fill as an alley defender, to cut off angles, and then read where the running back's going and not over pursue to avoid some kind of cutback or break outside. Requires a lot of discipline to be an alley defender. And I think Johnson on this play specifically does an outstanding job of exactly that, just to make sure that all of his bases are covered. Not a ton here, but I really appreciate how Johnson reacts to scramble rules here. So we got him as a deep safety. Quarterback's going to roll to the right after we shift over. So we're rolling this. He's got middle of the field responsibilities, but as the quarterback rolls out, he understands there's just no way, especially when you do the scatter report, unless you're playing Caleb Williams, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. As soon as he breaks, he does not have the arm strength to basically throw anywhere over here. So as we react to that, we're just going to now, understand, hey, receivers are going to do scramble rules. Every receiver is going to start breaking this way. If they're, smart enough, maybe this guy will turn this way too. But that means for a safety, I no longer am covering the entire, deep field. I'm now covering half the field right here. So I need to break and then read any options that are underneath me and break on those. And he does exactly that. Like, hey, I don't think he's going to have the arm talent. We got someone covering this deep route. Let me just break on this route right here. In case, he tries to make that throw dangerous. And if it doesn't get tipped, man, I think Johnson's taking that to the house just because of the discipline here of, hey, reading the quarterback. Hey, he's scrambling. I'm following the scrambling rules. And then instead of just staying back there, knowing that this quarterback especially probably can't throw it deep on the move, let me break on one of those underneath routes trying to, get open for him. And again, I think if that throw is not tipped or it's an incompletion, by the end zone, I think he's taking it to the house. Just another really disciplined alley fill here by Johnson. Going to read outside run here. And, with this crackdown block here, we got a pretty big lane here. Running back could also potentially break this outside. So we got to urgently fill this and track the hip of the running back. So you can see Johnson's on his horse, taking the right angle the whole time. And then as he gets closer, trying to slow down a little bit, but sees, the running back doesn't seem interested in breaking at all. We're going to track that near hip and then just get a shoulder. Oh, man. Even though his head's on the wrong side, it's the momentum and stopping power he has as a tackler that once he gets that full head of steam breaking downhill on a running back, they're going to have a hard time continuing to run. Just tosses him to the ground. This is the kind of tackler we're dealing with, man. Such a consistent, reliable, and really strong tackler who brings, every bit of momentum into his tackle attempts. Really helps him out. I love a safety that can do a little bit of everything, and I think that's exactly what Johnson is. On top of being, really decisive and reading well in coverage, he takes really good angles as a really good tackler in the box. So I think having that kind of versatility as a safety really helps your draft stock. And assuming by the time the combine comes around, he tests well. I don't see how this kid isn't a first-round pick. I just think that's the kind of player we're talking about. So I really, really enjoyed his tape. What do you think of Johnson? What do you think of the other safety? I think it's number 8. Because every time I watched, I feel like, man, he was making a lot of plays as well. So let me know in the comments. We've watched a few Notre Dame players on this channel. So if you're a Notre Dame fan and want to see some others, subscribe to the channel. Check those out as well. Really appreciate you guys watching. We'll be back on Friday. We're in week 0 of college football, so I'm tempted to share the start of my big board. But we might wait until week 1. We're also going to keep an eye on that Thursday night preseason game. There's a lot we can talk about, so stay tuned with all of that. But we'll be back with a video on Friday and then tons of stuff in the coming weeks because football is finally back this weekend. Appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you next time.